Okay, we've all heard about what's going on up in Washington, D.C. The vote or the non-vote will likely happen on Friday. And we've heard from both sides saying, well, yes, health care, if passed, is going to help Democrats in 2010. On the flip side, oddly enough, Republicans are saying health care, if passed, is going to help Republicans in the midterm elections in 2010. So how can they both be saying the same thing, and obviously one's going to be wrong? David Robertson, political science professor at the University of Missouri St. Louis, joins us to talk. Hi, Dave. Good to talk to you.
Hello. Good afternoon, John.
All right. Help us wrap our brain around this. What's going to happen because of what's going on in D.C. right now for local elections, say our Senate race here in Missouri in 2010?
Well, much of the playing field is already pretty much determined. We know that most incumbents will win re-election for the House and for the Senate, but there are enough open seats where it's possible for Republicans, if they do very well, to take over control of the House and the Senate. So the control of Congress is up for grabs a little bit. It looks more likely that the Republicans will gain quite a few seats, but maybe not enough to take over either of those bodies. I think nobody can be sure about the way health care is going to play into this, depending on whether or not it's passed.
You know, as a political science expert, you just have to be wanting to throw your shoe at the TV at night watching TV anymore, because both sides are claiming they're both claiming victory, and nothing's even happened yet.
Well, right, and they're claiming victory because they want to push a little bit harder on those members of the House who are wavering one way or another. Part of the reason you claim victory is to say that, people who don't know which way they're going to vote on the winning side.
Nah, that is good. Hey, you know one thing that bugs me, and I don't know if this is your area, but you were saying most incumbents across the country are going to win.
Uh-huh.
This redistricting that happens often really, really sets it up to where we're never going to have a real shift in power, are we?
It's going to be really difficult, although you could argue that we've had a pretty big shift in power over the last several years as Democrats picked up a majority in both houses of Congress and the presidency. It's
But some of these guys know they're never going to lose because of the way they've cut up their district. They're set for life.
Yeah, it's not just that, though. They represent fairly homogenous groups of people, and so whether you represent a conservative district in West County or a liberal district in North City and North County, you're probably serving the interests of your constituents, and they're pretty happy with that.
All right, good point. All right, this race that's taking place here in Missouri in 2010. The AP had an article about Congressman Roy Blunt running against Secretary of State Robin Carnahan, and I find it interesting how both sides are positioning themselves as Washington outsiders.
Right.
Despite the fact that Roy's been there for, 13 years, Carnahan, her whole family has been in politics. Nobody's an outsider at this point, are they? How do they spin that right?
Well, everybody wants to claim that they're an outsider, and with Congress being in such low esteem right now across the country, everybody wants to claim that they've never even seen or heard of Washington, D.C. So that's not unusual. In a year like this, you want to run as a change candidate, just like Obama did in 2008. So you're going to change things from the outside. That's the easiest way to play it. The problem is, as you say, these candidates, for the most part, have a lot of political experience and a lot of an inside track in the political system. So people are wary of how much they really are outsiders.
Do you think they just bank on the fact that most people who have real jobs and do their job don't have time to pay attention to all this stuff going on? Because both sides are blaming the other for all the problems in the country, yet, in this case, both of those sides have been in government for the past decade or so. So how can you continue to blame everybody else?
Well, that's right. They're claiming that their partisan side is going to save things, and the other partisan side is going to wreck things, and the rhetoric gets hot, and it gets very hard to understand which side is right and which side is exaggerating. Both of them are. But partly it's leaders in the country, and partly it's us. We're very, very divided about a lot of things when we think about it. You're absolutely right that we don't think about government and politics all the time, we do think about things like unemployment, and we would like it to be clearer that things are getting better and the government is moving things in the right direction, whatever that means.
You know, I find it interesting when you're talking about things that matter. There was a story today, I think USA Today, where nobody's really paying attention to global warming right now. It's all about jobs. That's
right.
all anybody's focusing on right now. And it still doesn't seem like most politicians are getting that message. Because I haven't heard much about, I know the jobs bill passed the Senate today, but you would think these guys would spend more time in their states focusing on the issues that really matter right now to people.
Well, I think the idea for the members of Congress is that they're trying to figure out what Congress can do. That's their job in addressing the problem and in trying to make things better. So hanging around Washington and trying to get something out of a committee that might get voted on positively that would make a difference and make things better for people, that would be very helpful.
So what do you think happens in Missouri in November of this year? We've always been the bellwether state. What do you think happens here?
Well, we're certainly a battleground state. We sort of lost that bellwether status when we didn't vote for Barack Obama, but he won the election. That was the first time in half a century that had happened. But in this case, I think we're going to be very much like the country. I suspect that Republicans have the advantage, but it's not a decisive advantage yet. And it's going to be a hard-fought Senate campaign in this state. There's going to be a lot of money. We're going to be treated to a lot of advertising.
Hey, that's good for us in the media. Not good for everybody else. But have you seen any polling? Are there any numbers between Carnahan and Blunt right now?
The few numbers that are out there suggest that Blunt is a little bit ahead at the moment.
Okay. All right, very good. Dave, good to talk to you. Appreciate your time today.
Sure.
All right, Dave Robertson, political science professor at the University of Missouri, St. Louis. 120.